cattle route. But in the north, we have cattle route. And so nobody is going to say ban, open grazing, in some areas in the north where there are cattle routes, where they move constitutionally from one point to the other. But in the south, there is no cattle route. And so for you to move from one point to the other, you have to move through farms. You have to move through, population, dense areas. And this is not very good. And that's what the southern governors and of course Southeast in particular are saying. Let's go back to our traditional method of relationship. We will no longer allow you to take your cattle from one local government to the other. And the implication is that these foreign headers also come in terms of, mobile headers. We take A47. So that is a source of conflict. So anybody that is saying that there should be no ban on this thing is, on the other hand, saying that, look, these killings will continue. And that's what gave birth to ESN. Whether we support it as governors, we don't. But the people tend to support it because of the foreign headers that pretend that they are raiding cattle and then they are killing. And in my own village, a white man was kidnapped in my village that's doing construction, by these foreign headers. And we've encouraged the federal government, let's treat this, cattle raiding as a business. Take money from the federation account and develop ranches where there are designated ranches, especially in the north. And the northern governors are willing, but it's been frustrated.
Well, we don't know what we can say is happening to Dave Umahi now, the former governor of Ebonyi State and the current minister of Work and Housing. Is it the adage that say blood is thicker than water, or the man just rethink? Or maybe his paymaster have changed and that's why he's responding with it? Because how else can we see that Dave Umahi is now supporting ESN in that area, and Fulani are now calling for the ceasefire? How do you want to describe this situation in the South?
Everybody knows that recently he attacked Kwankwaso when Kwankwaso said that Tinubu's government is factored against the northern interest, and he was able to put Kwankwaso very close to the record on ground that Tinubu's government is never like that, and it has been the north have been having their own fair share at the end of the day. But what surprises many Biafrans is a sudden repentance and asking for the Igbos to see him as a true Biafran and a true Igbo man this time around is what surprises many, because for some time now, when he was governor of Ebonyi State, we saw his outburst against Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. We saw his trying to create a bubago and the rest of them against the tactful proclaim and found out and registered that stood against any form of attack by the Fulanis in our farmland and different parts of the eastern part of the country, of which that's the purpose of establishing ESN as at that time by the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who is seeking justice somewhere in DSS custody currently. Now, I think we must give kudos to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu anytime, any day. The world must hear him one day, and I believe that the liberation will smile at him. Liberty will come, in one way or the other for him, and he will be celebrated by both the enemies and those who see him as a man who fought reality on ground. But let us look at what Umahi is trying to say at this point in time. He makes it very clearly, as you can see in that video, where he was challenging the state to an extent of questioning the rationale why ESN has not been able to be withdrawn from our forest. I think the fear of that is that it has been proved that there's so much resistance from the ESN against what is happening in the killings, especially the one that took place in Owerri, where it is being said that some of the people they saw there, that came and opened fire on innocent Imo citizens, we are wearing hijab, wearing covering face, carrying arms, we don't know whether they are female, we We don't know whether are female. We don't know whether the federal government, Fulani agencies. We don't know whether they are Nigerian army. We don't know who they are. But they came suddenly and open. These are the things that are happening in almost all the forests and boundaries. In Enugu, Benue, the same thing. And ESN has taken over all those, and to an extent, rubbished the agenda. There's mass exodus already. Even in their respective ID camp that they call Ruga. They say is Ruga must be established in the eastern part of the country. They saw what Christopher Musa was saying. Every 36 states of the federation must accept Ruga and all that. So Umahi, surprisingly, without that apology, defended the Eastern Security Network, and the reason is clearly that up to an extent they have able to resist influx of jihadists in the eastern part of the country. And the question is, what are these people actually doing in the eastern part of the country? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. What is the purpose? What are they looking for? Why are they always in our forests, macheting, killing, raping women, and destroying our farmland with their cows? And you feel that the people should not stand up for it. But when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu came with this idea of ESN, a lot of them shut it down because they believe that it's not something that's going to work. And by the virtue of their position with the federal government, they're going to, it's not going to work. They will use all manner of influence, But that is what the people are saying today. Ebuago is dead. ESN seems to be taking so much risk to liberate our women in their respective forests. You saw the onslaught in Benue Enugu borders. You can see the massive clearance there, by the ESN, and to an extent, the fight is still ongoing. And having seen that, I think to an extent, maybe the government has been getting reports on the successes recorded by the ESN, and looking at it, there's nothing they cannot do. They cannot hide from the truth, not to attract public anger against them for kicking against those who are defending humanity in the eastern part of the country, who are defending civilization in the eastern part of the country. I think that's why he came out and made it very clearly that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was actually right, and that ESN has actually come to stay. And it has angered the caliphate to an extent that they are challenging that he used his instrument. Maybe they see him now that you have betrayed whatever accord they would have entered, or whatever agreement they would have entered while you were going. Remember that time he was always flying with Buhari everywhere, all over the world, and compromising, talking about Islamic Bank and all that, and all kind of thing. As at that time, that's when we know that there is danger, somewhere. And before we know it, he started kicking against, resistance of Fulani agenda, factoring in Fulani in almost every part of Ebonyi State. But now the people resisted it. The youth of that state resisted it. Even the current governor of Ebonyi State, Nwefuru, also saw the seriousness and the willingness of this sacrifice from the ESN, and he kept his cool. And Umahi has finally come to the defense and telling the Sokoto Caliphate, that enough is enough, and he can no longer betray his people. And with the reality on ground, ESN is on ground and has come to stay. Whether they look at him from that angle, from the northern Fulani, as he has betrayed whatever accord, that is a business. But if the man has come to realize himself, I think maybe the Igbos may consider, what he's trying to say at this point in time, even though we have, say, reservations that anything can happen. They are politicians, they talk from both sides of the mouth, and most times they can never be trusted.
But now, can we say that it is what Nnamdi Kanu has planted that is growing now? Or how else can we describe this Nnamdi Kanu still in the DSS, a cell, and what he has planted that time is still flourishing? How do you relate the two? Because there's no Nnamdi Kanu now to give them direction. But what has motivating them? What has been motivating the ESN?
Yes, I think the purpose and the reality on ground, the fear of Islamization, the fear of the conquest, the resistance of the Biafrans all over the world, 85 million Biafrans that have killed into the Biafran restoration and sovereignty and recognition and solidarity that has been taking place in almost all over the world now is what is the bravery that the ESN is enjoying now. The endorsement of the people, the youth of respective states from the eastern region is what is breathing ESN, giving them that strength that is capable of demolishing anything that has to do. I think that's the secret. But we must say it very clearly that Mazen Nnamdi Kanu said it will take 250 years, for anybody to break into IPOB security or disintegrate IPOB. At the end of the day, even while he was still in detention, you can see, the coordination is still ongoing, calmly, professionally, and otherwise. The IPOB has always been there. The IPOB is not about Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. We are talking about the indigenous people of Biafra, both South and Southeast. Now their awareness is ongoing, and people are leveraging on the resilience of the ESN, to checkmate this. Imagine what would have become of the eastern part of the country. It would have been hitting some urban areas by now, entering churches, entering some places, to do all manner of things, like we saw in some part of Middle Belt and some part of Castina and other parts of the north too, and without any reservation, and I can tell you that most of the kingpins, who are being drafted into the Nigerian army, under these guys that they are repentant Boko Haram, are the ones who are being sent on a mission with uniform, to carry out such attacks. We are seeing in almost all the communities and farmlands in the eastern region. But there's a boundary now because Operation Tactical Launch declared by the ESN has triggered another form of resistance at the end of the day.
DOS, ESN, what is the difference? And do you think they are working together now? What is your observation about these two categories?
DOS, is more of an admin. But if you see, ESN is just the purpose, according to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, was I think, I don't know how you managed to know what was going to happen as at that time, till now, that these things are actually coming, and there's no need for us to put such security details in place. But now that Umahi has come to embrace and defend ESN, that means Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, would have foreseen, what was actually breeding or what was actually going on, or have the intelligence, and they were able to, stand that. So he crafted and created a standing resistance, movement against the jihadist conquest in Biafra land, because these are the things oath their grandfathers Uthman Dafodio took, that until South is being brought down, there will be no rest. So you can see that down these are some resistance, and they are also getting reports. The Fulani leaders and oligarchy are also getting reports of development of what is happening there. Maybe they have sensed there's massive resistance and the clearance of this thing in almost all the forest, and that was why they are ordering Umahi to respect whatever accord or whatever agreement they have entered in the past.
Lastly, before you go, let's talk about Simon Ekpa in Finland. He also contributed to some of this security architect in the southeast. Can you briefly tell us his input in all these things that has come to stay?
Yes, I think the attention shifted after the unfortunate illegality that took place in Kenya, which the world is working out completely now to take charge. That was where someone actually stepped in. A great guy, he did well. A Biafran Finland activist. Let me put it that way. He was a politician. He also involved as a reservist, army reservist in Finland. That means he is ready to defend Finland at any point in time. And I think to an extent he brought that knowledge, trying to, even though he was not able to do anything, but the shouting alone and the revelations alone, the ginger alone, let me put it that way, the sanitization alone added value into the continuous jihadist warfare in the eastern part of the country.
Thank you very much, sir.
The truth is finally out. Now that the Finnish government has declared the CDS of Nigeria, Musa, a terrorist now, what is the next phase of the lie? What lies can the government tell Nigerians? Now that Simon Ekpa is no longer in the picture, because it has always been pictured that Simon Ekpa is the cause of insurgency in Southeast, and now that insurgency has stopped in Southeast, and now that the Finnish government has vindicated Simon Ekpa, that those sponsoring insecurity and terrorists in the country are those some persons in the military. Now, where would CDS Musa bury his shame? Because a group of people are saying we want to exit the country. Because the Igbos are saying they are tired of the contraption called One Nigeria. That this One Nigeria, it will not work. And then it has not been working. It has been a country full of lies, propaganda, and shame. That has always been how it is from. So I am not surprised that the Finnish government has now come out to say CDS Musa is a terrorist for all the atrocities he has been, for all the atrocities he has committed in disguise of pretending to keep one Nigeria. And that one Nigeria has caused a whole lot of catastrophe in the country. Just some days ago, a notorious bandit that was declared wanted was seen in Katsina State with top government officials going for peace talk. Between Mazi Simon Ekpa and that terrorist, who is more deadly? But here we are today. Mazi Kanu is still in detention. Kanu is still in detention because of the Igbophobia, of the hate. If Simon Ekpa happens to be from the Fulani extraction, Simon Ekpa would not be a terrorist. I can beat my chest because we've seen Fulani Militias that have been given amnesty. We've seen Fulani Militias that have been integrated into the society. Now that Finland are waiting to the ICC, Nigeria should immediately hand over CDS Musa for custody. Because the French government have done their own findings too. And they've seen that something is pushing under the ground. That this man has a connection with these Fulanis, has a connection with these bandits, has a connection with these terrorists. So if they are sincere, they should hand over CDS Musa to ICC for questioning. Because now that the French government has done their own conclusion, I've seen that CDS Musa himself is not innocent in this. Nigeria cannot pretend as if they are not aware that CDS Musa has been declared wanted by ICC and the Finnish government. No matter how they tend to die the matter, it is in the social media space. Everybody has seen it that CDS Musa has been declared wanted by ICC and the Finnish government. No matter how the Nigerian government want to die this matter, but they are very quick to declare Simon Ekpa and IPOB a terrorist group. Now that the Finnish government and the ICC has declared CDS Musa a terrorist, why is the story not online? Why is the story not flying online? Because they themselves are also part of people championing insecurity and terrorism in the country. And that is why I say that anybody that speaks against the vision of the country, they will do everything possible to take that person off the hook. They will do everything possible for them to take that person off the hook. That is why I see that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been in detention. And the Finnish government, they were so gullible to be used by the Nigerian government. They were just too gullible. Because if they were not gullible, why would a country like Nigeria come to tell you that Samunepa is the one sponsoring insecurity all the way from Finland, and you sit your ass down in Finland and you believe them? But there are some rumors that the envelope also change hand. You know Nigerian story now. You know Nigerian government, that Nigerian government, anything that Nigerian government cannot do to bribe does not exist. I am very sure that the government have bribed the Finnish courts, and that is why I say that Samunepa was wrongfully accused and sentenced. Now that the appeal court is now coming out to reverse all your stuffs. It is now a very clear indication that Samunepa is innocent of all the charges leveled against him, because the Finnish government has come out to indict CDS Musa, saying that CDS